Mom said no dog allowed at her birthday, then let my sister's dog sit at the table. The cream-colored envelope arrived on a Tuesday, my mother's flowing script instantly recognizable among the bills and junk mail. I almost missed it while sorting through the stack at my kitchen counter, but the weight of the paper caught my attention. Thick, expensive cardstock that announced its importance before I even opened it. Luna, my golden retriever, patted over and rested her chin on my thigh as I slid my finger under the sealed flap. She developed an uncanny sense for my emotions over our 6 years together, especially since the divorce 3 years ago. Mark had wanted the house, the car, even the vacation timeshare, but he'd never once asked about Luna. Inside was an elaborately embossed invitation announcing, Eleanor Vivian Bennett requests the honor of your presence to celebrate her 65th birthday at the Willowbrook Country Club. Saturday, June 18th, 7 p.m., formal attire required. Mom never did anything small, especially when it came to celebrating herself. Last year's intimate gathering for her 64th had included 40 guests and a string quartet. The thought of what she'd planned for this milestone birthday made my bank account wince preemptively. I was about to slip the invitation into my planner when a small note at the bottom caught my eye. No dogs allowed. My heart sank. Luna seemed to sense the shift in my mood, pressing closer as if to ask what was wrong. It's not you, I told her, running my fingers through her soft golden fur. It's Mom being Mom. Luna had been with me through everything. My divorce, the layoff 8 months ago when my company downsized, and even those long nights I spent at the hospital during Mom's knee replacement surgery last winter. Luna was more than a pet. She was the one constant in my life when everything else had proven fragile or conditional. I reached for my phone and dialed Mom's number, trying to keep my voice level when she answered. Cassandra, did you receive the invitation? Isn't the cardstock divine? The printer told me they usually only use it for presidential events. It's beautiful, Mom. I took a breath. But I noticed the no dog stipulation. Yes. Her voice took on that particular edge that always made me feel like I was 13 again. I was hoping to bring Luna. She's been through her good citizen training, and it's a formal event, Cassandra, she said with that clipped tone she used when she didn't want to be questioned. I want things elegant. The venue has policies anyway. But Luna is so well-behaved, Mom. She could stay in the car during dinner and just... I said no dogs, Cassie. The shift to my nickname wasn't affectionate. It was dismissive. Why must you always challenge everything? Melanie didn't argue about the invitation. Of course she didn't. Melanie never had to. My younger sister had always glided through life on a wave of Mom's approval. Melanie with her perfect blonde hair, her thriving interior design business, now on its 3rd iteration after Mom bailed out the first 2, and her uncanny ability to say exactly what our mother wanted to hear. Fine, I said, scratching Luna's ears as she rested her head on my lap, those understanding eyes gazing up at me. I'll RSVP, for just me. Wonderful. Mom's voice brightened instantly. And do her something appropriate. That green dress from Christmas hides your shoulders nicely. I closed my eyes. I'll find something appropriate. After hanging up, I stared at the invitation again, the gold lettering suddenly seeming less luxurious and more ostentatious. Luna whined softly, nudging my hand. It's okay, girl. We'll have our own party that night. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from Melanie. Got my invite today. So excited for Mom's big bash. You going? I typed back a simple, wouldn't miss it. Her response came seconds later. Great. I've got the perfect gift idea. We should coordinate so we don't overshadow each other. Call me. Coordinate. As if we were a team. As if Melanie had ever worried about overshadowing me in Mom's eyes. I went to my closet, pushing aside hanger after hanger of practical work clothes until I found a garment bag at the far end. Inside was a midnight blue cocktail dress I'd splurged on last year, nearly a week's salary, and never found an occasion important enough to justify wearing. Maybe, just once, I could arrive at a family function and not feel like the supporting character in the Eleanor and Melanie show. Luna followed me to the living room, settling into her bed while I pulled out my laptop. I had 3 weeks to find a gift impressive enough to match the dress, something that would make Mom pause, even momentarily, in her perpetual orbit around my sister. As I scrolled through options far beyond my budget, a notification popped up. A reminder for Luna's checkup at the vet that Saturday. I'd have to reschedule. There was no way I could afford both that and a gift worthy of Mom's expectations. That's when it hit me. Luna had never once demanded a choice between her needs and someone else's approval. She had never withheld love based on performance or appearance. She was the family I had chosen, while my mother and sister were the family I had been assigned. I closed the browser tabs of expensive gifts and opened a new one. By the time I went to bed, I had a plan. Mom's birthday would indeed be memorable, but perhaps not in the way she had envisioned. Something told me this wasn't about formality at all. With Mom, it never was. The Willowbrook Country Club loomed ahead, its colonial facade illuminated by carefully positioned landscape lights. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror one last time, lipstick perfect, hair cooperating for once, before grabbing Mom's gift from the passenger seat. The midnight blue dress hugged my figure in all the right places, making me feel confident despite the hollow ache in my chest from leaving Luna whimpering at the door. 6 hours tops, I'd promised her, feeling like I was betraying my best friend. I'll bring you leftovers. The valet took my keys with a practiced smile, and I squared my shoulders before ascending the stone steps. Mom had warned me not to be late, so I'd arrived 20 minutes early. The gift, an antique silver picture frame holding a restored photo of Mom with her own mother, was wrapped in silver paper with an intricate bow that had cost extra at the boutique gift shop. 3 weeks' grocery money nestled in my hands, about to be judged worthy or lacking. The lobby was a symphony of white roses and crystal vases. I followed the sound of muted laughter to a private dining room where a small crowd had already gathered. My steps faltered at the doorway as my eyes struggled to process what I was seeing. There at the head table sat my sister Melanie. Her blonde hair cascaded in perfect waves, her champagne flute raised mid-toast. But what froze me in place wasn't Melanie herself. It was what sat beside her in its own velvet-upholstered chair, Prince, her white teacup Maltese, wearing what appeared to be a custom-made bow tie and actually sitting at the table. Not on the floor. Not in a carrier. At the table. The room tilted slightly. I gripped the doorframe, certain I was hallucinating. But no, there was Prince, a cloth napkin actually tucked beside his tiny paws, a small plate with what looked like specially prepared chicken placed before him. And not a single guest looked surprised. Cassandra, you're early. Mom's voice cut through my shock. She glided toward me in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, arms extended for air kisses rather than a real embrace. Don't you look appropriate? Her eyes darted to my chest, then back to my face with a tight smile. I leaned in for the obligatory cheek press, clutching my gift so tightly the bow crushed against my palm. Happy birthday, Mom. She accepted the package with a nod, setting it on a side table already crowded with elaborately wrapped presents. Then, unable to help myself, I gestured toward Prince. I see the no dogs policy had an exception. Mom's expression didn't even flicker. Oh, Prince is clean and small. Luna sheds everywhere, and she's so enthusiastic. This is different. Different. I repeated, the word tasting bitter. I see. Besides, Mom added with a dismissive wave, Dr. Harrington's wife is terribly allergic to large dogs, but toy breeds don't affect her. It's a medical necessity. I glanced around the room, spotting an older woman chatting animatedly with a server, no signs of distress in sight. Peculiar how this medical necessity was never mentioned when I called about Luna. Melanie finally noticed me and waved, champagne sloshing dangerously close to the rim of her flute. Cassie, come see Prince's new bow tie. It's Burberry. I somehow managed to cross the room without screaming. Prince regarded me with his bulging eyes, a tiny growl rumbling in his throat. He'd never liked me, perhaps sensing my opinion that he resembled an expensive dust mop more than an actual dog. He looks festive, I managed, while Melanie beamed as proudly as if she were showing off a child prodigy. The staff just adore him. she gushed, scratching behind his ears. The chef is preparing him a special dessert, too. My assigned seat, I soon discovered, was as far from Mom as the table allowed, wedged between a woman who spoke exclusively about her tennis elbow and a man who kept checking sports scores on his phone beneath the tablecloth. From this perfect vantage point, I had an unobstructed view of Prince being hand-fed morsels of filet mignon by both Mom and Melanie throughout dinner. "Your sister's dog is darling," tennis elbow woman commented between courses. "So well-behaved." I nodded mechanically. "We weren't allowed to bring dogs tonight." "Oh." Her eyebrows lifted in confusion. "But Prince is right there." "I meant real dogs," I clarified, instantly regretting the pettiness. "Large dogs." "I'm more of a cat person myself," she confided, before launching into a detailed account of her Persian's recent dental surgery. The evening stretched endlessly. I smiled through the toasts, clapped at all the right moments, and even managed to avoid grimacing when Mom opened my gift with a perfunctory, "How thoughtful," before setting it aside for Melanie's much larger package, which contained, to appreciative gasps from the crowd, a diamond tennis bracelet that must have cost thousands. "You always know exactly what I want," Mom gushed, embracing Melanie while Prince yapped excitedly between them. By dessert, a towering chocolate creation that Prince sampled before any human guessed, I felt something fundamental shift inside me. This wasn't just the usual favoritism. This was something deeper, more calculated. It was as if the rules themselves were designed specifically to exclude me while maintaining the thinnest veneer of plausible deniability. When I finally escaped to my car, the night air cool against my flesh skin, I sat motionless behind the wheel for several minutes. The memory of Prince in his chair, napkin tucked in like a miniature diner, burned in my mind, transforming from humiliation to something harder, more resolved. This wasn't about dogs. It never was. And for the first time in my life, I decided I was done pretending otherwise. Sleep eluded me that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Luna's warm weight pressed against my side, her steady breathing a stark contrast to my racing thoughts. The image of Prince in that velvet chair kept replaying in my mind, a perfect symbol of everything wrong in my family dynamic. "You saw the real them tonight," I whispered to Luna, who thumped her tail sleepily in response. The incident had cracked something open inside me, not just fresh hurt, but a door to memories I'd spent years trying to rationalize away. Like water through a broken dam, they came flooding back, too powerful to ignore any longer. I remembered my 16th birthday, when I'd asked for driving lessons. Mom had given me a used driver's ed textbook and access to her old sedan on weekends. The following year, when Melanie turned 16, she received a brand new Audi with a custom paint job and a personalized license plate. "Melanie is more social," Mom had explained when I questioned the disparity. "She needs reliable transportation for all her activities." My activities, debate team, volunteer work at the animal shelter, my part-time job at the library apparently didn't qualify as important enough. Then there was college. I'd worked 2 jobs to supplement my partial scholarship, living in a cramped dorm room with 3 other girls to save money. Meanwhile, Melanie attended the same university with a fully funded apartment fund from Mom, living alone in a luxury complex near campus. When I'd asked Mom why Melanie received housing money while I didn't, she'd said, "Melanie needs her space to study." "You've always been so independent, Cassie." Independent. The word that had once made me proud now revealed itself as the clever manipulation it had always been. Independent wasn't a compliment. It was an excuse to provide less. I rolled onto my side, Luna adjusting to curl against my back. The moonlight filtering through my blinds cast striped shadows across my bedroom wall. Even my graduation had fallen victim to the pattern. My ceremony, where I'd received honors for maintaining a 3.9 GPA while working 30 hours a week, had been marked by a modest dinner at Mom's favorite restaurant. 3 months later, Melanie graduated with a barely passing average, and Mom threw her a catered garden party with a live band and custom-printed commemorative champagne flutes. Melanie worked so hard to finish, Mom had said when I mentioned the discrepancy. We need to celebrate her perseverance. My perseverance, apparently, was simply expected. The professional world had offered no refuge from the pattern. When I landed my first corporate job after years of climbing the ladder, Mom had responded with a polite, "That's nice, dear." Yet she had flown across the country to attend the opening of Melanie's first interior design shop, a venture funded entirely by Mom that failed within 6 months. That business had been bailed out twice more before finally gaining traction. Meanwhile, when I was laid off during company-wide cutbacks, Mom's sole contribution had been forwarding an article about building resilience in challenging times, along with a suggestion that I should have diversified my skill set. The beam of headlights swept across my ceiling as a car turned onto my street. I glanced at the clock. 3:17 a.m. In a few hours, I would need to get up, walk Luna, and go to work as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. The scales had finally fallen from my eyes. I remember the Christmas 5 years ago when Mom had promised me Grandma's pearl necklace, a family heirloom I'd admired since childhood. "When you turn 30, she'd said, "these will be yours." My 30th birthday had come and gone last year with no mention of the pearls. At Thanksgiving, I'd spotted them around Melanie's neck. "Oh, those," Mom had said dismissively when I asked. Melanie needed them for a charity gala. They look better with her coloring anyway. My hand reached for my phone on the nightstand. I pulled up the photos from tonight's party that had already appeared on social media. There was Mom, beaming at the camera, the diamond tennis bracelet from Melanie glittering on her wrist. My silver frame was nowhere to be seen in any of the pictures. Luna stirred beside me, whimpering softly in her sleep. I stroked her golden fur, centering myself in her uncomplicated love. "At least you're on my side, girl." That's when a chilling thought surfaced. If Mom had been this blatant about the dog situation, what else might be happening behind the scenes that I didn't know about? The family beach house in Cape Cod, the one place where I had genuinely happy childhood memories, had always been promised to stay in the family. But whose portion of the family? The jewelry collection that had been cataloged and supposedly divided equally between Melanie and me in Mom's will. Had that changed too? Mom had begun talking about organizing her affairs lately. What did that really mean? My mind raced with possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. The pattern was clear now, impossible to unsee. For 45 years, Eleanor Bennett had been building a monument to her favorite daughter, while I served merely as a backup, a contingency plan, a lesser alternative. "Well," I whispered to the darkness, "no more." Luna raised her head, sensing my resolution. I scratched behind her ears, a plan forming in my mind. It was time to find out exactly where I stood in the Bennett family hierarchy once and for all. And I knew just where to start looking. "I appreciate you helping me with this, Cassandra," Mom said 3 weeks after her birthday party. She gestured to the stacks of papers littering her home office. "These files have gotten completely out of hand." I nodded, setting my purse on the antique chair by the door. Luna sat obediently beside me, her presence a small victory I'd insisted on when Mom called asking for help. "Melanie busy again?" "She has that charity auction to prepare for," Mom replied, not catching or choosing to ignore the edge in my voice. "You know how demanding those society events can be." Of course. Melanie's social calendar trumped mundane familial duties yet again. But for once, I was grateful for my sister's absence. "I've sorted most of it," Mom continued, checking her watch. "Medical, household, and financial. Just organize them chronologically within each category. I have a hair appointment in 30 minutes, but I should be back in about 2 hours." "Take your time," I said, already eyeing the filing cabinet in the corner. "I'll make sure everything's in order." She hesitated, glancing at Luna. "Do keep her away from the furniture." "She'll stay with me," I promised, scratching Luna's ear. "She's better behaved than most people I know." Mom chose to ignore this comment too. "There's coffee in the kitchen if you need it. Just don't rearrange anything in there, please." Melanie organized my pantry system last week. Once Mom's car disappeared down the driveway, I let out a long breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Luna padded over to a patch of sunlight on the carpet and settled down, watching me curiously. "Time to get to work, girl," I murmured. "The real work." For the first 45 minutes, I legitimately organized papers, establishing a system Mom would find both useful and impressive. But my attention continuously drifted to the bottom drawer of her desk, the one she'd pointedly not mentioned, the one with the small brass key still inserted in its lock. When I finally worked up the courage to open it, I found exactly what I'd feared might exist: a manila envelope labeled Final Will and Testament, revised March 2023. Just 4 months ago, after Mom's knee surgery. After I'd spent 3 weeks driving her to physical therapy appointments while Melanie was on a crucial business trip to Aspen during ski season. My hands trembled as I slid the document from its envelope. Luna, sensing my distress, came to sit at my feet, her warm presence anchoring me as my eyes scanned the legal jargon. The beach house in Cape Cod, where I'd built sandcastles as a child, where I'd had my first kiss at 16, where I'd retreated after my divorce, was listed first. To my daughter, Melanie Grace Bennett, I bequeath full ownership and all associated rights to the property at 427 Lighthouse Lane, Chatham, Massachusetts. Full ownership, not shared, not even with a courtesy guest right for me. My eyes blurred as I kept reading. The jewelry collection, including Grandma's pearl necklace that Mom had explicitly promised me on my 25th birthday, was listed under Melanie's inheritance. So was the art collection, Mom's vintage car, and even the family photo albums I'd helped preserve and digitize last year. My name finally appeared on page 4, after detailed descriptions of what Melanie would receive. My inheritance was described as a monetary equivalent to be determined by the executor being Mom's longtime friend Catherine, who had been Melanie's godmother and had always regarded me with barely concealed indifference. A monetary equivalent. As if family treasures and memories could be reduced to a cash value. As if I could be bought off and dismissed with a check while Melanie received every tangible connection to our family history. She's erasing me, I whispered to Luna, who pressed her warm body against my legs. I buried my fingers in her golden fur, trying to steady my breathing. All these years of showing up, of being the dependable daughter, the one who drove Mom to doctor's appointments and brought soup when she was sick. And this was what I meant to her? A financial obligation to be settled? I checked the signature page. Catherine had witnessed it, along with Mom's financial advisor, a man who played golf with Melanie's second husband every Sunday. The document was properly notarized, legally binding. I made a copy using Mom's scanner, my movements mechanical as my mind raced. Then I carefully returned the original to its envelope and replaced it in the drawer, locking it exactly as I'd found it. For the remainder of my time alone in the house, I continued organizing papers while my thoughts spun wildly. I found medical records documenting the knee surgery I'd helped Mom recover from, insurance papers with my name as emergency contact, birthday cards I'd sent that she'd kept, evidence of my presence in her life, my care, my devotion, all at odds with the cold legal document reducing me to an afterthought. When Mom returned, her hair freshly styled, I'd created a perfectly organized filing system. "Finished already?" she asked, sounding impressed despite herself. "I'm very efficient," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "Everything's in its proper place now." "Thank you, Cassandra. I knew I could count on you." She handed me a check, payment for my time, as if I were a hired assistant rather than her daughter. I looked at the amount, then back at her composed face. Did she have any idea what I'd discovered? Did she care? "Luna, and I should get going," I said, calling my dog to my side. "I have some important matters to take care of." "Of course," Mom nodded, already turning to admire her freshly organized files. "Melanie's stopping by for dinner, if you'd like to join us." "No," I said, surprising us both with my firmness. "I have other plans." And for the first time in my life, I truly did. "You have one saved voicemail," announced the robotic voice as I scrolled through my phone later that evening. From Mom. Received. January 15th, 7:42 p.m. I pressed play. Luna curled beside me on the couch and listened with new ears to a message I'd nearly forgotten. "Cassie." Mom's voice trembled through the speaker, uncharacteristically vulnerable. "I've fallen in the bathroom. I hit my head." I don't think I need an ambulance, but I can't get up. I tried calling Melanie, but she's not answering. I don't trust her to help me with this anyway. She'd just hire someone and leave. You're the only one who really cares. Please come when you get this. Please. I remembered that night vividly, abandoning my dinner, driving through a snowstorm to find Mom huddled on her bathroom floor, spending 3 days at her house afterwards while she recovered from what turned out to be a mild concussion. Melanie had sent flowers 2 days later with a card clearly signed by her assistant. The only one who really cares, I repeated softly, scratching Luna behind her ears. When it's convenient to remember that. That voicemail became the first piece in my growing collection. Over the next week, I methodically gathered evidence of my presence in Mom's life and Melanie's absence. I created a spreadsheet tracking every doctor's appointment I'd driven Mom to, every holiday I'd attended while Melanie was just too busy, every household emergency I'd handled. In my email archives, I found dozens of messages from Mom asking for help with everything from computer problems to prescription pickups. My calendar app revealed 26 family dinners in the past year alone. Meanwhile, Melanie's Instagram documented her simultaneous vacations in Bali, Santorini, and the Maldives, trips funded by Mom's business investment in her interior design company. The narrative has two sides, I told Luna as she watched me create folders on my laptop. And it's time everyone heard mine. The real breakthrough came when I remembered Mom's cloud storage account, the one I'd set up for her to back up her photos. She'd never bothered to learn how it worked, simply handing me her phone whenever she wanted pictures transferred. The password was still Melanie's birthday, typical, which gave me access to years of family photos. I downloaded them all, my eyes stinging as I sorted through evidence of my own erasure. In nearly every group photo, Melanie stood center stage beside Mom while I hovered at the edges. For major events, Mom's retirement party, her 63rd birthday, I was often the photographer, literally removed from the frame of family history. But there were exceptions. Photos Mom probably didn't realize had been backed up, candid shots of me helping her after her surgery, a series of pictures from last Christmas when I'd cooked the entire dinner because Melanie canceled at the last minute, claiming food poisoning, though her social media showed her at a ski resort that same day. Evidence, I murmured, organizing the photos into a timeline alongside my other documentation. My apartment became command central for Operation Truth, as I'd started calling it. Sticky notes covered my living room wall, connected by color-coded strings like a detective's crime board. Luna watched curiously as I transformed from the family doormat into something else entirely, someone with purpose, someone with power. The final piece fell into place when I overheard two colleagues discussing Mom's upcoming charity brunch for the hospital board. It was her annual showcase event. The mayor would attend, local media would cover it, and the guest list included every influential person in town. Mom had been planning it for months, meticulously crafting her image as the generous community pillar. It was exactly the audience I needed. I called Mom that evening. I'd like to say a few words at your hospital brunch, I told her, keeping my voice neutral. A daughter's appreciation for her mother's charitable work. The silence on the line told me she was surprised. I'd never volunteered for a public speaking role before. Well, that's unexpected, she finally said. But I suppose it would look nice. Just keep it brief, Cassandra. 2 minutes maximum. And wear something presentable. Of course, I agreed pleasantly. I wouldn't want to embarrass you. After hanging up, I pulled out my laptop and began creating a simple but powerful video montage set to the classical music Mom always played during her dinner parties. I worked through the night, meticulously editing together the evidence of my years as the family workhorse alongside Melanie's gilded absence. The voicemail came first, Mom's vulnerable admission that I was the only one who really cares. Then a series of text exchanges where she'd asked for help and I'd immediately responded, juxtaposed with Melanie's consistent excuses. Photos of me at Mom's bedside after surgeries, at doctor's appointments, helping in her garden, interspersed with social media posts from Melanie on vacations during those same dates. And finally, the inheritance clause, highlighted and enlarged. The completed video ran exactly 3 minutes, 1 minute over my allotted time, but I doubted Mom would cut me off in front of her esteemed guests. When it was finished, I leaned back in my chair, emotionally drained but oddly peaceful. Luna rested her head on my lap, her brown eyes watching me with complete acceptance. "No going back now," I told her, feeling lighter than I had in years. The truth had been a heavy burden to carry alone. Soon, everyone would share its weight. 2 days before the brunch, a glossy invitation arrived confirming my speaking slot on the program. I placed it on my refrigerator with a magnet shaped like a dog bone, a small reminder of where this journey had begun. A simple "no dogs allowed" that had finally opened my eyes to the truth. Sometimes, it takes a small injustice to illuminate a lifetime of larger ones. Mom's garden had been transformed into an outdoor reception hall. White linen tablecloths fluttered in the gentle May breeze, crystal champagne flutes catching the morning light like diamonds. Hospital board members in designer suits mingled with local people and society matrons, all orbiting my mother as she played the perfect hostess. I arrived exactly on time, wearing a simple cream pantsuit that projected quiet confidence. Several heads turned as I made my entrance, not from the magnificence of my appearance, but from the surprise of seeing the other Bennett daughter, looking so purposeful, so composed. Melanie stood near the mimosa fountain, Prince tucked under her arm wearing a ridiculous pet-sized sun hat that matched her own. She raised an eyebrow at my arrival, but didn't bother to wave. Cassandra, Mom greeted me with their kisses. I was beginning to worry you'd forgotten. Her eyes scanned my outfit, searching for flaws and finding none. The mayor just arrived. Do try not to monopolize anyone important. Networking is crucial for the hospital's fundraising. I wouldn't dream of it, I replied, patting the tablet tucked under my arm. I'm just here to deliver my remarks as promised. Mom's smile tightened. Yes, well, 2 minutes, remember? The program is quite full. The brunch proceeded with clockwork precision, exactly as Mom had planned. Catering staff circulated with trays of gourmet delicacies. The hospital director praised Mom's dedication to the children's wing. The mayor proclaimed her a pillar of community service. Through it all, Mom beamed, occasionally glancing at her watch to ensure the schedule remained perfect. Finally, it was time for what the program listed as family appreciation. Mom stood, champagne flute raised. Before we conclude our gathering, I want to acknowledge my wonderful daughters. Her practiced smile included Melanie and barely grazed me. Family is the foundation of all meaningful charity work. Without their support, none of this would be possible. She nodded at me, signaling my cue. Cassandra has asked to say a few words. I approached the small podium set up near the rose trellis, my heart hammering against my ribs. The faces watching me were politely interested but obviously eager to finish and move on with their day. I connected my tablet to the projection screen normally used for the donation slideshow. Thank you all for coming today, I began, my voice steady despite my nerves. I'd like to speak about what my mother has taught me over the years. Mom's smile brightened, anticipating the expected platitudes. She's taught me the value of resilience, I continued, of quiet loyalty, of showing up when it matters, even when, especially when, it's inconvenient or difficult. I tapped my tablet and the screen behind me came to life. I've prepared a small tribute to illustrate what I mean. The voicemail played first, Mom's vulnerable voice filling the garden. You're the only one who really cares. Please come. The polite smiles around me froze. Mom's face drained of color. The video continued relentlessly. Text messages where she'd pleaded for help, always met with my immediate response and Melanie's excuses. Photos of me at her bedside after surgeries while Melanie's social media showed her on exotic vacations. The log of doctor's appointments I'd driven her to, household emergencies I'd handled, holidays I'd rescued. Then, the inheritance clause appeared, enlarged and highlighted. To my daughter Melanie Grace Bennett, I bequeath full ownership and all associated rights to the property at 427 Lighthouse Lane. A champagne flute shattered somewhere to my left. Prince began yapping frantically. The mayor studied his shoes with sudden, intense interest. Mom. Melanie's voice cut through the stunned silence. What is this? Cassie, Turn that off right now. I met my mother's eyes across the crowd. Her face had gone from shocked white to angry red. But behind the anger, I glimpsed something else: shame. I don't need to say anything else, I said quietly, disconnecting my tablet. You've spoken for yourself, Mom. The silence in the garden was absolute as I walked calmly through the crowd, past Melanie's furious glare, past Mom's stunned expression. No one tried to stop me. No one spoke at all. Cassandra, wait. Mom finally called, her voice uncharacteristically unsteady. But I was already in my car, sliding into the driver's seat with shaking hands that somehow felt stronger than they ever had before. Luna greeted me at the door when I got home, her tail wagging as if I'd been gone for days instead of hours. I held her close, breathing in her familiar scent, feeling lighter than I had in years. For 2 weeks, my phone remained silent. No angry calls from Mom, no outraged texts from Melanie. The silence spoke volumes. Then, on a rainy Tuesday much like the one when this had all begun, a certified letter arrived from Mom's lawyer. With trembling fingers, I opened it to find a copy of a newly revised will, dated just 3 days earlier. The beach house would be shared equally between Melanie and me. Grandma's pearls were specifically designated for me, along with half the art collection and family albums. And there, on the final page, was a clause that made me read it twice to believe. To my daughter Cassandra's companion, Luna, I leave a trust of $5,000 for her care and comfort, with the stipulation that she is always welcome in any property I own, including after my passing. Beneath the legal document was a handwritten note in Mom's elegant script. Cassie, some truths are harder to hear than others. I've been unfair. It's easier to appreciate the daughter who demands attention than the one who quietly gives support. I'm learning that lesson late, but I hope not too late. Sunday dinner? Luna is welcome at the table.
Mom.
I looked down at Luna, who watched me with her head tilted in confusion. She didn't understand, of course, that she had just inherited a permanent place at the family table. It seemed dogs did have a way of revealing people's true hearts after all.